Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're here. It's evening for me. It's almost evening for Christos. It is very not evening. In fact, it's already tomorrow. That's how far ahead our guest.
Yeah, mid-morning for me.
That's how far ahead Mr. Padgett is from us. He's already well into his
future,
into his Thursday. So,
yep.
we have a special episode tonight. It's After Dark. I will say though, apparently After Dark has a very different meaning on Twitter, so I would advise you not to write tweets that have the words After Dark in them unless you want to get a bunch of weird messages. I'm going to have to make sure.
Chill and After Dark. You're king of puns these days, right?
So yeah, I've gotten a couple. We'll just call them interesting messages. So I don't have to go delete that tweet, but yeah, we're excited to be here. We got an interesting show for you tonight. A couple big announcements, I guess. About a month ago, we did a show about app roles with Azure AD. And a new user experience that was available in the portal. And within about half an hour of us finishing that show, it was pulled for various reasons.
That was the best show ever.
That was
we'll show you something that you won't be able to find right after the show.
Yeah, but it's back. So it came back today. So you should be able to see it in the portal and update your app roles without messing around inside of a manifest. So that's good.
Who doesn't like XML?
Yeah, well, I mean, in other news, I finally figured out why I haven't had power in my bedroom for 6 to 8 weeks. And
come on, tell us. It's been months. We've all been dying to hear.
So we had an electrician come out for 6 hours over 2 days, and he and his partner found the metal pull chain that goes down. To pull the lamp on and off. Apparently the light bulb fixture had been twisted on the ceiling fan, and the pull chain, which is metal, was tapping the neutral wire of the light. So that was it. So only 6 hours of work and hundreds of dollars in fees to figure out that when you clean a ceiling fan, you really shouldn't twist the light bulb fixture. So and then I guess the
JP, sorry for interrupting. Seems like my microphone is a little bit low.
No, I mean I can hear you. I got the volume all the way up. Maybe you should talk louder. So
sorry, carry on with the story.
Yeah.
While I fix my.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Send it. Turn it up a little bit, and we'll see. Because I can hear you. I can hear you normally in my ear. So either. I hope there's nothing wrong with the feed, because it seems like everything's in good order. The only other bit of news, do we have any other news? I mean, we last saw everybody on Monday, so it's pretty difficult to find new news. Two new pieces of news, or two existing pieces of news. Come and tell us your stories. You see the link up at the top of the screen. Tell us your stories. Tell us how we helped you. Not we personally, but tell us, we'd love your stories about how we personally help you. But seeing as those are probably in short supply, tell us how the identity platform has helped you and the kinds of issues you've had, or kinds of problems you've had, or kinds of neat solutions you built. We will send you cups and water bottles and t-shirts and all sorts of fun stuff that we just got. And then also the Discord. I did a Discord call with a couple folks from the stream Monday afterward with Vicious and Robertables, our good friend Robert Tables, and it was a really interesting thing. So be sure to join the Discord. Come out and talk to us. We're probably going to be holding a sort of Ask Me Anything sometime in the next couple of weeks. So where you can hop on, we'll all hop on voice, and we'll all just chat, and we'll sort of do a show without streaming it, and just for anybody who's hanging out in the Discord. So we'll get the link out, make sure it's available for everybody. Christos, any news? Any news for you?
Yeah, there are news. I mean, if you missed our show on Monday, Node MSOL is out in preview, so you can go and start using it today. Watch the show to see what's new actually and what was announced, but it's super exciting from that perspective. I don't think we have any other news.
Yeah.
I have some kept for Friday, so I don't want to spoil the announcement. But not as big as the app roles coming back into the portal.
Yeah. So today we're gonna dive into B2C with probably, I don't want to say probably because that's probably shortchanging them, with the authoritative expert, the internet expert on B2C. I have gone and found more Stack Overflow questions answered by, authored by, linking to blog posts authored by, linking to code repos authored by Mr. Padgett than anyone else. So everything I know about B2C, I learned indirectly from Chris, and so I'm super, super excited that he's here because I'm fairly certain that there's nobody else on the planet who knows as much about B2C and in particular custom policies as our guest tonight, or this morning for him. So good morning to you, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone on the stream. It's great to be here. And do you send those cups and t-shirts to Australia, as far as Australia do, if I share my story? Or
Yes, we will.
Yeah,
we absolutely will. Yeah, we certainly will.
Yeah,
already in the mail.
Universal.
Yeah,
cool.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're gonna show us today.
Well, I don't think I can top that intro, thanks, JP. But I'm in Melbourne, Australia, so I'm coming to you from tomorrow morning. I'm an app dev. I've been developing apps for as long as I can remember. But in particular, the last 4 to 5 years, I've been doing a lot of identity development. I've built my own OAuth servers for myself and for clients of the business I work for. In particular, I like to do a lot of work on the Azure AD Identity platform, Microsoft Identity platform, and B2C in particular. Whether it be integrating apps with that or building user flows or custom policies as well. Do a lot of custom policy development on B2C, a lot of XML. But yeah, this is my particular passion, and I guess that's what I'm happy to be here today to share with you about how to get started with B2C.
Super cool. All right. Well, let's go. Cool. Let's kick it off.
Cool. Look, what today's show's really about is going from zero to hero with B2C, and in particular, how you can get started with B2C for the first time, how you configure it, customize it, build those sign up and sign in flows, password reset and so on, localize them, integrate them with backend APIs, add conditional access to those flows where required, and integrate those flows into a web app, which I'll be demonstrating a bit later. So hopefully over the next hour or two, kind of demonstrate what can be done and how you get, and leave you with a few takeaways and what you can do with B2C as well. Just to set a bit of context, I'll just show you the app that we're going to integrate B2C with. So this app is in fact two apps. I've got a web app and an API app, both ASP.NET Core. I'll just run up on my local machine. Pull up on here. So what I'll be demonstrating today is creating a B2C-based experience for a fictitious company, Wingtip Toys, who have a games website where customers of Wingtip Toys can sign up and sign in to games and so on. Right now, if I click this sign in button, nothing happens. So we're going to start to fill this in. There's a bit of app code to show, but also a lot of time I'll spend in the B2C portal or in and around the B2C portal, and be walking through how we set these experiences up from end to end. Cool.
And how appropriate is it that a talk all about B2C has a giant Doom logo right in the middle of it? It's perfect.
Some of those games are a bit old, I must admit. So but Doom was a good game. I loved playing that back in the day, in my university days. Okay, so let's get started with B2C. So I'm going to get started I've got an Azure subscription here, and I've created a resource group for use today, this 45 Wingtip Toys B2C resource group. Now to this, I've deployed a few resources which we'll use a bit later, including a function app and an application insights to support that function app. But what I'm going to get started with is how to create a B2C tenant for the first time. So I'm going to click Add, and in this marketplace, I'm going to search for Azure Active Directory B2C. Here we go. Okay, so obviously we want to create these because we want to build these experiences for our Wingtip Toys customers. That's exactly what B2C is perfect for. Now, really creating a tenant is actually a two-step process. The first step is to create the actual tenant. going to choose this create a tenant option, and I'm going to provide a tenant name, which I'll call 425 Wingtip Toys. Let's see, perhaps. I'm going to have to choose a unique domain name, and this is very similar to creating an Azure AD tenant, of course. So we're just going to enter 45 Wingtip Toys B2C for that domain name and hope that has not been used. It hasn't. That's good. And then I want to choose my data center location. I'm in Australia and I can't choose Australia, so I'm going to choose the United States for this one.
Is there a specific reason why you can't use Australia?
It's not available in the in terms of data sovereignty. It's not available in some regions as yet, including Australia. Maybe it's too far away and the box hasn't arrived yet. I don't know.
Well, if it's coming from the US, they're not going to let it in anyway, right?
Well, that's right. It's in quarantine somewhere on our side. Okay, so I've got a name for my tenant, the domain name and the country. I'm just going to click create, and that will just take a moment or two to provision. So what this is doing is obviously creating a B2C tenant. A B2C tenant's a lot like an Azure AD tenant with all or many of the kind of the enterprise features removed or disabled in it. Mm-hmm. It's certainly a directory that supports a much larger scale than a normal AD tenant. So hundreds of thousands, if not millions or hundreds of millions of user accounts can be managed in a B2C tenant. And the pricing is very different, of course. You're effectively paying for monthly active usage, and in fact you get your first 50,000 monthly active users for free, which is really good. So if you're a smaller business or have a smaller customer base that you want to target with a B2C experience, then you can effectively get a lot of this for free, which I'll show you today.
Well, we got somebody rating us, Pardell with Pardell.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Thanks everybody coming in from Pardell today. We've got we're diving into B2C with none other than Chris Padgett. So stick around and learn how to learn how to add consumer and social and local users and all sorts of good stuff to your apps. Stick around with us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a good little gap filler, thank you. So that's just been created. Now I'll actually browse to the B2C tenant in a few moments, but before I do that, what I have to do next is link this B2C tenant to an Azure subscription, and this is required for billing and metering basically. So I'm going to choose this link option, and I'll wait for this drop-down list to load. I'm searching for the B2C tenants that I've created or I've access to. Here it is, the one I've just created a few minutes ago. I'm going to choose that tenant. I'm going to link it to the subscription that I'm logged into the resource group I showed you a little earlier that I've pre-created. So I'm just going to click create there. And by linking this, what is happening, by linking this tenant to this subscription or this resource group, I just refresh the list of resources in this resource group. Just takes a few moments for the resource graph to refresh. It's actually creating an Azure resource that refers to the B2C tenant. It's not kind of the tenant itself, but just kind of reference to it. So if I open this up, there's really no B2C administration functionality that's available to me through this particular resource. I actually have to click this button here to go and browse and log into that B2C tenant and manage it like I would an Azure AD tenant. However, one of the key things here is you can see that by linking this B2C tenant to my Azure subscription for billing and metering, I get to choose between a couple of pricing tiers. A P1 tier and a P2 tier. The difference between the two is P2 adds all the conditional access and identity protection features and functionality. That again is free for the first 50,000 monthly active users. So I'm going to choose that because I want to demonstrate some of that functionality a little bit later. So all I've got to do there is choose P2 and save that. And that's done. We've made that pricing tier change. One thing to be aware of here is in order to change the pricing tier, you have to be an owner on the Azure subscription. Okay, so if
Oh,
you're just a contributor or maybe a member of and have some other role assigned to you in Azure subscription, you have to be an owner of the subscription to make that license.
right.
Yeah, that's caught me out a few times. I think the option's presented, but you won't be able to save it. So we're kind of set up from a tenant point of view. So that was pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to click this great big button here. Opens up a new tab, and this is logging me into the B2C tenant itself. Now, because in Azure subscription, when I created the B2C tenant, I was signed in using my Arinco work account up here. I just automatically become the global administrator or the first GA of the B2C tenant. Okay, so just while we wait for the B2C portal to load the first time. Well, it is loading. You can see here that I'm signed in the same account, but I'm now in a different tenant, a different directory, the B2C directory.
Yeah. And those directories show up under your filter too, right? So if you end up somewhere and you don't know how to get to your B2C tenant, you can always choose it from the filter, and all the different ones that you have will show up there. Yeah.
Correct. It's exactly right. It's listed here. So the first thing I usually do after creating a new tenant is I kind of use this as a break glass account, I guess is a good way of putting it. What I generally do next, just as a good practice, is create another global administrator account that's local to this directory.
Right.
Okay? So, and I generally sign in as that rather than my break glass account to do all the administrative tasks and so on and so forth. So I've just browsed to the list of users in this B2C directory that we've just created. This is the account that I'm already signed in with, and it's kind of, you can see it's kind of come from an external Azure AD tenant. Okay, so I'm going to start by adding another a new user to this B2C tenant, and this new user will be the one that I log into to do all the administrative work. So I'm just going to use my name. You can see here the domain of this new user is local to the B2C tenant. My name. I'll just get a password temporarily, and I'm going to assign this new user to the global administrator role. So I can sign in as them and do what I need to do. Let's create that. Cool. And so I'm now going to sign in as this local account here. And to do that, I'll just switch to a different screen so I don't get my sessions too mixed up. Okay, so I'm going to log in as that new user. That temporary password. Get myself a new password that's a bit stronger than the temporary one.
So it's test 1, 2, 3 with an exclamation mark this time rather than just the number.
And an @ symbol and a hash, yeah. Even stronger than that. Exactly right. Actually, that's a good point. So these global administrators, these accounts can be protected like all other Azure AD accounts in terms of conditional access and MFA and all those kinds of things. So yeah, I guess we always strongly recommend that these GA accounts, global administrator accounts, are protected using at least a second factor auth.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah. Okay, so now I've signed in as this new the second administrator into the B2C tenant. Of course, this user is only a member of that tenant, so there aren't any other directories that they can switch to. And to get started here, I'll just go and find the Azure AD B2C portal, and I'm in. So that's good. I've got started, which is pretty good. Now, what I'm going to show you next is I'm just going to walk through basically this menu, almost from top to bottom, to get ourselves started with our first user flow. A user flow is an identity experience that you want to present to an end user, an end customer, whether that be a sign up and sign in experience, a self-service password reset one, whatever the case may be. Yep. We'll get to that a little bit later because there's a few kind of things we've got to set up first before we get as far as that.
Perfect. Chris, can you zoom in a little bit, especially if you're just going to be working on the...
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah.
Yes, that looks good.
Cool. I'm going to start with IDM providers. So in a B2C tenant, there are a number of, built-in IDM providers that are supported that are listed here. IDM providers can either be users can either sign up and sign in using a local account, where that local account is keyed on an email address or a username, or they could sign up and sign in using a social account. The built-in kind of social accounts are listed here. If you have, as a business, an OpenID Connect provider that you want to bring for yourself or bring from another third-party provider, you can add your own OpenID Connect IDM providers through this dialog and set up here as well. So there's a bit of flexibility there in how to allow users to sign up and sign in both with local accounts and external ones. Now, by default, when a B2C tenant is created for the first time, the local identity provider or local accounts are kind of configured for email sign-ups and sign-ins, but you can also choose usernames as well and give the user the option of using either a username or an email when they sign up and sign in. But I'm just going to keep the default for now. But when I want my users to sign up into Wingtip Toys, their game site, I want to give them the option not only of signing up with an email address, but also with a Google account. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up now. Now, to set up a Google account, I've got to go and register my B2C tenant with Google. Okay, right. And as a result, much like with all kind of federated sign-ins, Google will issue a client ID and secret that I can use with my B2C, register with my B2C tenant, and get that trust happening between the two. So I'm going to open up this page here. So I've signed into console.developers.google.com to register my B2C tenant with Google. Now, to do that, I just need to go to this credentials tab here. Wait for that to load. And I basically just want to add an OAuth 2.0 client ID and secret that I can then register with my B2C tenant and get the federation trust in place. So I'm going to click Create Credentials, OAuth Client ID. My application type, because all the B2C flows are web-based flows, then I register my B2C tenant as a web application. And I'll just call this 425 Wingtip Toys for my B2C application, the B2C tenant rather. And there's a couple of origins and URLs that I have to provide as part of this OAuth application registration with Google. Authorized JavaScript origins really is the name of my B2C, the name of my B2C domain. Now, when I created the B2C tenant, I provided it with a domain 425 Wingtip Toys B2C.onmicrosoft.com. But all the web requests, the authorization endpoint, the token endpoint, and so on, are actually sent to and received from this .b2clogin.com domain. Okay, so what my end users will be experiencing when they're redirected to a B2C flow is this domain here. And so this is the one that has to be registered with Google and Facebook and all the other external identity providers. Okay, so I'm going to add that one in. And also I'm going to have to add a redirect URI. So when my web application, my games app application redirects users to sign up and sign in the B2C flow, and they choose Google as their sign up option or sign in option, and B2C then redirects to Google to sign them up or sign them in, then Google needs a redirect URL. So for that, I'm going to use this one here. So all Google sign-ins will be redirected back to my B2C login domain, and this endpoint here, this OAuth 2 auth response endpoint. That auth response endpoint will receive the Google token, the identity token, access token, for example, validate that, and then sign the user in the B2C tenant using that Google account that's been issued as part of those tokens. So I think I've got everything I need there. I'm going to create this OAuth client credential. Take a copy of this client ID that's been created for me and this client secret. Okay, all that. And that's all I need to do on the Google side. So that's pretty straightforward. Just switch that back to the B2C tenant. So I'm back in here. And those two URLs, by the way, the origin and the callback URL are listed from those. I'll copy it and paste it from here. Now what I have is I'm going to call my social IDP Google and paste in my ID and secret created for me in the Google Developer Console. There we go, save that. And that's all I need to do to set Google sign up and sign ins.
Nice. Yeah, it's usually one of these things that we don't really show on our stream. Like we can pre-configure with existing providers, and it's a bit of a black box. So thanks for showing this.
Yeah, no problem. So that's I'm pretty cool with my ID providers now. So my users are going to sign up and sign in with email or Google, whatever they choose to use. Next, what I want to show is some user attributes. So in a B2C tenant or a B2C directory, there are a number of built-in attributes that we can manage about users. And we can present these attributes, collect the values for these attributes from them when they sign up, for example. So we may want to ask for a name, an email address that's verified, so we know that they own that email address, and maybe where they live, for example. But we can also add any number of custom attributes. So these are attributes that aren't by default built into a B2C directory, but we can add essentially as extension properties, otherwise known as custom attributes in B2C parlance. So I'm going to add a couple of custom attributes. Remember, these users are going to be signing up and into a gaming site. So I want to ask, when they sign up, I'm going to ask them for a gamer tag. I'm assuming this is what gamers do. I'm not much of a gamer myself, but we're going to ask them for a gamer tag of type string, and we'll ask them for a gamer or a gaming zone, kind of what type of games they like to play. So obviously a gamer tag is something we can show in their profile and maybe show to other users. A gamer zone is something that we kind of want to use to personalize the homepage experience. So rather than just them signing into the gaming site and being shown all these games, we'll use their gamer zone to kind of personalize that homepage experience a little bit. So we'll set up a couple of those custom attributes, and that's all we need to do there. That was pretty easy. I'll show you how we actually collect this information later and issue it to the web apps themselves that the users will be signing up and into.
Nice.
Yep. Next, I want to actually build my first flow. Okay, so I'm going to start with a sign up and sign in flow. This is kind of, sign up and sign in means it's kind of a combined experience. We by default, we present a sign-in page. B2C presents a sign-in page with the option, a link basically for users to click to sign themselves up if they don't already have a local account or Google account registered with this B2C tenant. Okay, so by creating a user flow, I'm going to choose this user flow type, sign up and sign in. There's a couple of versions of this flow that I can choose from, either the so-called standard one, which is the generally available one, yep, or a preview one, which is the one I'm going to select here, which has some additional features, including CA policy support built into this this preview flow.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to choose this, and then I'm presented with a page that asks, prompts for a few properties about this sign up and sign in flow. I've got to give it a name. Sign up, and I'm quite verbose, by the way, so I'll give it quite a long descriptive name. And this is the name that I'll refer to from my application code or configuration, and it becomes part of the redirect from my app to the B2C authorization endpoint to sign users up and in. So I'll give it a name. I want users to be able to sign up and sign in using an email address or a Google account. So I'm going to choose both of those options there. So this is obviously just listing the identity providers that I've set up in my B2C tenant. I'm going to include multi-factor authentication, but only apply that conditionally. And I'll show how our conditional access policy can be created to control this and enforce this later. But I want to enable MFA now, one using SMS or a phone call, and secondly, just using a conditional access policy. Okay. Now further down here is where I get the opportunity to kind of choose what I want users to enter when they sign up, and also what I want to issue as claims and the tokens to my web app, to my gaming app, when those users have signed in. Now it's got a short list. I'll just expand this out here to show you the full list. So when users sign up, basically their attributes I want to collect. So I'm going to collect their name, their email address, which will verify as well, the gamer tag they want to use, the zone that they want to play in, and that's probably about it, I think. It looks like enough. Don't want to overburden them with too much of a sign-up form. But also, once they've signed up or signed in, I want to return a few claims to my app. Their display name, their email address, their gamer tag, their gamer zone, the identity provider that they've signed in with, either locally or by Google, whether they're a new user, so they've just signed up, and their user ID or their object ID of their user object in the B2C directory. I okay all of that.
So we got one quick question while you're here, and maybe it's something we can come back around to. But so the language around MFA being conditional or being always is kind of is a bit confusing. And so, what exactly does that does that mean? Like, by saying that it's conditional and we've got the conditional access policy box checked, like, what does that give us? Like, what if we just wanted to say, we don't want any MFA? What if we just wanted to skip it entirely?
Yes. So this hint here gives a bit of that away. So it's conditional insofar as if there's a conditional access policy that we've created and enabled, then that policy will apply. And if that policy means that at sign-in time, MFA has to be enforced, or maybe even the actual sign-in has to be blocked, then that's what this conditional option means here.
Yeah, okay.
If I don't create a CA policy, then effectively MFA won't be enforced because there's no conditional access policy being applied.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So this is the kind of saying off until a conditional access policy is being created and applies at sign up or sign in time. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Good question, though. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to create my sign up and sign in policy with all those settings. Wait a few moments for that to complete. It's done. Now, if I back in my list of user flows, obviously it lists my newly added policy and gives me a whole lot of extra options that I can choose and customize. But before I do that, I want to run this policy for the first time and just test it. Make sure that everything is all good. But before I do that, I need an app to sign the user up or into. Okay. The way I like to test these policies for the first time is if I just go back out to the B2C portal and choose app registrations. Before I integrate my gamer app for real, I'm just going to use JWT.ms to test my user flow. Okay, so I'm going to create an app registration for JWT.ms and the redirect URI for that. Register this application.
So an ongoing debate that we have is how do you pronounce JWT? How do you refer to them?
Otherwise refer them as JOTs, is that right?
Well, that's what certain people do. I'm on team JWT. There's a whole group of people apparently who call them JOTs, and I don't know where the O comes from. And I know that it's in the spec because the first time we talked about this, somebody sent it to us and said the spec mentions it, but the spec only mentions it. It does not have a must or a should in front of it, so okay. I'm not going to say it. But I'm always curious as to what other people call them because first few times I heard people say it, I was like, what the hell is JOT? Like, I don't know. What are you talking? Are we talking about the same thing? I had no idea what people were on about. So
Yeah, I had to ask again as well the first time I heard that. Maybe it's if you say "jot" kind of with a word, "jot," maybe, I don't know. Not with a kind of the Australian accent I had. It doesn't sound like, that's for sure. Okay, so the other thing I just want to ensure here, I've said in the app registration for jot.ms that I've just enabled implicit grants. So we can issue an ID token from the user flow that I'm about to test and see the claims in that ID token. So I'm just going to save that before we move back to the user flow and test it. Okay, so let me just back out to the user flow. Open my user flow properties up again. I can now run this user flow. Okay, so automatically selects the application that I registered. Gives me a URL that I can copy and paste, and I'll perhaps just open up another browser to show this. Browser tab. Okay, zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I've copied and pasted this user flow URL, and this is, as you can see that, it's basically a redirect, or it's basically just invoking the authorization endpoint. What's important here is that it's doing so with the name and the policy to execute, the user flow to execute my sign up and sign in one. So if I press enter on this, here it is, with some basic branding, which is good. This is great for demos, by the way, because you can kind of show a good enough experience to as presentable experience. But as you can see here, if I have an email address and password that I've already signed up with, I can just sign in with that, or sign in using my Google account, or sign up for a new account using my email address. So I just want to make sure my sign up page looks about right. Yep, so I'm going to expect users to sign up using an email address, provide a password, the display name, the gamer tag and gamer zone that I added as custom attributes as well. And they should be able to click create. So I'm pretty happy with that so far. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. Okay, next I want to customize a few things on the sign up page. First thing I want to start with is the page layout itself. And by the way, if you're not happy with the blue template that's shown by default, you can choose a different one, a slate gray theme. And so if we just go back to that other page and refresh this, we should be able to see that come through, slightly different look and feel. So you can kind of play with those if you wish. I'll show you how to bring your own branding in a few moments. But before that, for this sign-up flow, there's a number of different pages that we're going to present to the end user. We're going to show them the sign-in page to begin with, which is this so-called unified page here. And on that page, we're going to show them a list of one social IDP. We can change the name of the button label if we want to there. If the user wants to sign up using an email address, which I just showed you, then if I scroll down a little bit further, we can see here, these are the user attributes we're going to display on that sign up form. And this is where I can start to drag these around and change the order of those fields on that form if I wanted to. Okay. What I want to do with these fields, these form fields though, is just make sure that we're going to verify the email address that's entered. I'm going to make sure that all these other fields are not optional because we want the user to enter them. I can choose what type of input control we use for each of these fields. So text boxes are cool for display name and gamer tag, but I want to use a drop-down list for my gamer zone because that come from a list of 3 or 4 values that I want the user to use. Now, to provide a drop-down list, I then have to provide the kind of the key value pairs or the text value pairs for that drop-down list. So I've got a few that my app knows about, the gamer app. I can choose from family games, professional games, whatever that means. I'm not a gamer, so just excuse my ignorance about some of this stuff. Recreation games. I know there's fishing games. I used to like those as a kid. And underground games. They sound a bit, they kind of after dark games, perhaps. Yeah. So we're good to go there. So I add all those key value pairs. And I just want to change a couple of the labels that are shown on the form, just to make it a little bit more readable. So just put spaces in there, and I can save that. So that gives you kind of a feel for how you can kind of start to customize the form layout and the form fields and how those fields are presented. That was for when users sign up using an email address. If they want to sign up using their social account, then I still want to capture those same 4 fields from them. So I just have to go through that exercise a second time. So I'm going to say that the display name, is not optional. Actually, it's remembered some of the settings I've provided for the local account sign up. I just want to make sure that it's got all of my drop-down list selections. It does. So that saved me a little bit of time. And then if I save that and I go back, just switch my browser again and refresh this sign up page, you can see here that's kind of got my new labels, name rather than display name, and enter my gamer tag here, and I can select from my gamer zones.
Nice.
So I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, it's good.
No, that's super cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
The next thing is I want to bring my own branding because I'm not kind of happy with the blue or the grey. Wingtip Toys is very much a red branded company.
Nice.
Yep. So I'm going to set a couple of things up to enable that. I'm just going to back out of my sign up and sign in flow again. And there's 2 things I want to do. I want to bring branding to each of the sign up and sign in pages, but also make sure that the email messages that are sent out when emails are used to sign up, and we want to verify those emails addresses, that those emails are also branded. Now, to do this, I have to brand the emails, the outgoing emails that are used for verification, for sign-ups and password resets as well. I've got to use this company branding feature here. And to do this, I can, to enable this, I basically want to bring my own Wingtip Toys logo. So I'm just going to hit browse here, and I should have an image ready to go, Wingtip Toys logo. Just ignore what's happened there. And I want to also set a background color. Let me just set that to bright red. Oh, sorry, that's not bright red, is it? That's bright white. Bright red, and I'm going to save that. So again, just using this company branding to provide a company logo that will be displayed. Actually, that should now be displayed on this page here. There we go. I just refreshed my sign up page and my company logo is displayed. And that company logo is also added to those email messages that are sent for sign-ups and password resets. The background color that I just set is in the email messages that are sent for sign-up and password reset will just include a kind of a banner background color that will be red, which I'll show in a moment. But to actually bring branding to the sign-up and sign-in pages themselves, I'm going to have to provide my own HTML. Okay. To do that, I'm going to go and create a storage account in the Azure subscription that I was in earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back to my Azure subscription to the resource group that I had my B2C tenant, linked my B2C tenant earlier, and create a new storage account. By the way, this HTML that I'm bringing for myself and will be basically presented to the end user can be hosted in a storage account like I'm about to show. Could be on a web server as static file or files. They could be dynamic pages that are loaded from a web server. You have any hosting option available to you there. I'm just going to use the storage account for simplicity. So what I'm going to do is add a storage account with this name, Wingtip Toys B2C templates or something like that. Yep, and I'm going to host it close to my end users, which is me in Australia. So that's Australia East is close enough. I'm just choosing leaving the default options here. It's a standard storage account, so on and so forth. Just click review and create. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to create the storage account. And once this is created, I'm going to create a blob container and upload my branding files to that blob container. and then I can switch back to my sign up and sign in flow configuration and refer to that those files in that container. And at runtime, what happens is when the sign up page is loaded and presented to the end user who's signing up, the B2C page will make a cross-origin request to my storage account to download the custom HTML, the branded HTML, and then load that into the DOM basically. And that's where we kind of see the branded experience being presented in the sign up page. Okay, so let me just go back to my resource group. Just wait for my storage account to pull through. There it is. We deploys B2C templates. Now, this is one thing I usually forget many people do. It's well documented. I just don't read the documents all the time. Is that for that cross-origin request to be successful from the B2C domain to my storage account domain, then I have to enable CORS on this storage account.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been caught by that before.
Yeah, every time I get caught by every single time. And then you have that aha moment, you kind of hide your face in embarrassment and then move on, hopefully pretty quickly.
Do you go star, or do you are you specific about? Okay, so only one origin.
Only from this origin. And this is where my B2C tenant is being, or the experience is being hosted on wingtiptoys.b2clogin.com. So I'm not gonna do a star there. I'm only going to allow get requests with any headers.
Yep.
And maybe a max age of 300 or something like that. Yep. Thankfully, I didn't forget that as I was passing through here. So we're good to go. So in terms of CORS, I'm going to go scroll down, create my container, host my files. I'm just going to call that a default. This is the other thing you can often be forgotten. You have to make sure that there's public access to the blobs within this container. Otherwise, no one can access them, i.e. the end users. Okay, so public access for blobs. I'm going to browse into this container and I'm going to upload a few things. I'm going to upload some files, some HTML files I've already prepared. I've just got to remember where I left them. I think it's...
And for people that might be asking, there is documentation about what the structure of these HTML and CSS files should look like, right?
That's right. And there's actually a good place to start if you're doing this for the first time is you can actually, if we just look at the network traffic here, for the standard, I'll just open this up. Let's pull this up a bit. Sorry, let's open my other screen. So this one here, self-asserted.cs HTML, is the one that is downloaded to present this slate grey experience.
Right.
So I often find it's a good place to start. You can basically rip this HTML from here and use this as a guide.
That's a good idea.
There's some
reverse engineering your page.
And there's some older ones too, like I think maybe the first revision of these are out on GitHub too.
That's right. But it's a really good guide because it kind of may just have to unminify it or prettify it, but it's kind of got all the element, IDs and everything in classes and things you need to refer to style it up. Pixel perfect. Yeah. Often I've kind of started with a clean slate in terms of CSS, and it's a lot of work. It's probably the most amount of work that you have to do to create the best experience from a B2C point of view is all that HTML and CSS. And I'm not the world's best web designer or developer by any means. So you'll see that a good example of that just in a few moments. So when I upload my own files. So I've got a few UI templates here for an error page, my sign up and sign in page, and the 2 registration pages, one for local accounts or email signups and one for Google signups. So I'm going to add them into my storage account. Okay, HTML there. Just clear these out of the way. I've got some fonts that I want to use. So I'm going to upload those into a container folder called fonts. Upload those. Get all this out of the way. I've got some images I want to show. The logo, and a background image, for example, and kind of a button image for the Google sign up and sign in. So I'm going to add those to an images folder. And last but not least, in fact, I think that is all I need to get started with. Come back to JavaScript a bit later. So I'm ready to go there. What those files actually contain, just to quickly show you that, what I've just uploaded is the folder, the directory I uploaded them from. I generally work with, and this, web developers work in different ways, but here's my sign up and sign in HTML template. It's got some links to some style sheets that I want to use, as well as the kind of the body of the page itself. But what's most important to include is this API, this div element with an ID of API. And at runtime, when the B2C page loads and it loads this custom page into the DOM, into its own DOM, it then adds all the form fields into this API div, and that's what I can start to style from there. But I've full control what's kind of scaffolded around the outside of that API div in terms of how I want to lay the page out.
Yep.
Yep. I've got some scripts in here for analytics as well, which I'll show a bit later. And then I've got all my CSS, the fonts I want to use, the images I want to use, and I kind of have a build creates the distributable forms of these pages. But basically, if I just open this up, basically bundles and minifies everything into a single HTML file just for the best experience. So that's what I've uploaded. Now, if I switch back over to the B2C tenant.
And those those essentially can be uploaded anywhere as long as you can put as long as you can control the CORS headers, you could put
Correct.
them in Azure Storage, S3, your own web server. I mean, GitHub Pages even does CORS now. So yeah, on a CDN, yeah. So
Yep. Obviously, you want them close to your users, wherever they might be. But you got all those hosting options available to you. So now I've uploaded my branding files. I'm back into my sign up and sign in flow. I choose page layouts. So again, this is where I'm going to specify what HTML has to be loaded for the sign in page and those two registration pages. So to do that, I'll basically just say, select my unified sign up and sign in page. I want to bring my own content. Probably should have copied a HTML. I'm just going to choose my HTML file over here to get the URL. So I can't remember that off the top of my head. And there we go. Save that. I'm just going to do the same for multiple loads belonging to different templates were provided. Unsure which template to use. Oh, sorry. That is strange. First body.
oh yeah, while we're chasing that down, one of our viewers, Bolt, he does a whole lot of B2C work too. He's over in the UK, so he's staying up late with us tonight. But
Okay.
as long as it's a URL on the internet, right? It doesn't even have to be static. It could be completely dynamic. In fact, there are some localization things you could do. It could be a web app that's serving up dynamic content.
Correct.
As long as it follows as long as you've got a div in there with API, then you're good to go.
Yep. And that's where those fields are stuffed into that API div, and then then you just use CSS, or maybe we do JavaScript to control the presentation of those form elements. So let me try this again because I really want this to work.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
I wonder where that's coming from. That seems.
Let me try the next one. So I'm going to choose my local account registration blob. Try and save that.
And I'm assuming your cores and it's a public container. All those things have already been set and are available correctly.
Yeah, this should just, all it needs is a URL reference to those pages.
Oh, that is kind of strange. Is it? Well, 2.1 is current. Is there another page layout version we've got access to right now?
I can up it by a minor build version, but no. So let's just see if I can save. I can't even save the original page URL, the slate grey one. Or
Oh, that's weird. I wonder what that's coming from. Almost seems like I wonder if it's like a portal bug.
Yeah, let's try one more time. Page layouts, custom page content. Just go and get my sign up and sign in URL again. Paste that in. Everything else looks cool. No, it doesn't like it. All right, maybe we'll come back to that a bit later.
Yeah, that's pretty strange. Well, we're kind of right up at the top of the hour anyway. Do you want to take a quick break? We'll get some new coffee, get some new drinks, whatever you're drinking. Take a quick bio break, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Talk to you then.
Yeah, twice the loop.
Yeah, 2 loops this time. All right, see you in a few minutes. Oh man, tough crowd already, giving us a hard time about the 5 minutes. So that's the whole point of Back in 5, is that it's completely arbitrary. It's 5 minutes whenever you want the 5 minutes to begin.
I did say you should say back soon.
Yeah, Chris has told me I should say back soon, but that's just too. It's too far away. It's too abstract. It's got to be. It's got to be more specific. So back in 5, it's.
No, back soon is more arbitrary than the back in 5, because back in 5 sets up expectations.
We're never going to.
It's all about expectations.
We're never going to agree on this. Back in 5 means it's back in 5, but it infers a commitment, but there's no actual commitment. That's the best part. So. Anyway, yeah, so
we just need to fix the loop.
Yes.
Just need to fix the loop so it's not 2 minutes and people
we just need to put a crossfade on it. That's what we need. But so we're back with Chris Padgett, the XML necromancer that makes B2C do all sorts of amazing things. And we're working on page customization and
Except I can't get it to do that. Yeah, that's
yeah, service issue. I guess we'll have to bubble that one up.
Cool. Sounds good. So yeah, I just want to make sure that I can run this. So just make sure I run it, and then we'll look at what we need to do to get it. If it kind of looks good enough, maybe without my custom branding for now, that we can get the users signing up into the gaming app itself.
Yep.
So it's not too bad. Okay, it's all good. My sign up page is ready to go with my drop down list. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm now going to create an app registration for my gamer web app to get these users signed in. So to do that, go back to app registrations, create a new app registration. I'm going to give it a name, Wingtip Games. I want the accounts to sign in using my user flow, so that's why I choose this third option here. I need to provide a redirect URI for my app registration, and that's this one here. So I'm just going to run it off my local machine. So it's a standard signing callback endpoint for .NET Core apps using the Microsoft.Identity.Web middleware.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And I'm going to automatically consent to these 2 scopes for users that sign in OpenID and offline access.
Is your app a .NET 5 app, or are you still using 3?
I'm still back on 3.1, all the way back there. Yeah.
Chris, it's been a week that it's been out.
I know. So,
3.1 is LTS. 3.1 is LTS. I see no problems here.
Yeah.
Says the guy that uses the latest and greatest of alpha libraries. It's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to have to go open. I don't want to have to go open every app and update frameworks every 6 months. I mean, come on, who wants to do that?
Yeah, the performance improvements you get with 5 though are insane.
That's what we
So
hear.
even just for that. I've got data, man. It's not like I'm just making it up. I've got data to back it up.
I'm just going to add another redirect URL for my sign out endpoint. And again, just going to make sure that we can issue the ID tokens from the authorization endpoint to the app and save that. Okay, so we're good to go there. Now, if I just switch to Visual Studio, here's my gamer app over here. That's the one I showed you earlier. To this, I've already added the NuGet package for Microsoft.Identity.Web UI in this particular case. So let's start adding some code and configuration to get this started. So to do so, I'm going to open my startup class, startup file, and add a couple of extra lines in here. I'm going to, after that, do use authentication to enable the authentication middleware. It's going to sign users in, and use authorization so that we can put authorized attributes on pages or controllers and actions that we want to protect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I need there to begin with. Down in my configure services, I need to add a few things here. So when I add controllers with views, I also want to add Microsoft.Identity.Web UI, which adds some additional controllers and actions to basically manage the sign up and sign in and password reset flows and redirects to B2C and back. Yeah.
Yep.
So also need to add a couple of things to add.
Yeah, I mean that
Set some
that essentially gives us all of our sort of ASP.NET hooks, like challenge and challenge for specific schemes and everything, so that we don't have to wire any of that up ourselves.
Yep. I'd rather be doing other things and having to wire that up for myself. So but what we do need to wire up is the configuration system. So OpenID Connect options. So what I do have to configure for this particular application, obviously the tenant to redirect to and the client ID that has been registered for this particular app and so on and so forth. So to do that, I need to configure some OpenID Connect options from my configuration system or app settings file, basically, using a configuration section key called Azure AD B2C. You can call this whatever you like, but that's the one. It's kind of the canonical one or standard one. So that wires that up. I also need to wire up services.add Microsoft.Identity.Web app authentication. And it's going to read its configuration from the same config section in my app settings file. I think that's about all I need there. Just make sure that builds. So this is nice, like, with less than half a dozen lines of code and a few lines of configuration, my app should just work. I open up my app settings. So I've got my configuration section ready to fill in a few settings for. These are ones I've got to go and find from my B2C app registration. But first, I know my tenant name is Wingtip 425 Wingtip Toys B2C. So this is the domain that the authentication request is going to be sent to, with this qualifier in the path, in the authorization request path. I need the client ID that I just created. So I just switch back to my B2C portal, go to the overview blade for the Wingtip Games app that I've registered, copy the client ID, paste that in here. And then also, I've really only got one policy for now, but this is where I put in the policy name that users are going to sign up and sign into. If I had some other policies, we may not have time to create all these today, unless you just want me to watch me point and click everywhere.
No, it's fine. I think getting the app off the ground, I think it's usually more impactful.
Yep. So I'll give a name for that. Obviously, these user flows would have to exist in B2C. I'll just make sure my sign out input's here. I think that's all I need. So I'm going to build that and run it. Let's see what happens. Press F5. Here's my app opening up here. Okay, so we've got our home page. I might just do this in a private window so I can use it. New session later. Okay, so I'm going to click sign in. Now the sign in button, I've got a login partial view that shows that sign in button as part of my my layout view. That effectively just does a redirect to an ASP.NET Core area called Microsoft Identity and an account controller, a sign-in action. That's all provided by the Microsoft Identity Web UI NuGet package, and as you can see, it's redirecting me to my sign-up, sign-in experience on B2C. So far, so good. I'm going to sign up as a new user. That's my email address, to which I'm going to send a verification code. Just wait for that. While I wait for that to come through, I'm going to enter my not so strong password. Sign up to this new user. Put my name in there, the gamer tag like CHPAD, and I'm new to family games with the kids, so I'll choose that for now. I'll just open up my email inbox and see if something has arrived. Hopefully that verification code has arrived. Okay, let me just pop this out. Here's the email message that's been sent to me. So with my bright red background color and my company logo with the verification code I need to use.
Nice.
Yeah. By the way, you can if you're into custom policies, you can build your own, bring your own email templates as well. Okay, so just making it simple to get started with the built-in template. So I've verified my email address. I've entered the rest of the information that I need to sign up with. I'm going to click this create button. Whew, that worked. How about that? And now I'm signed back into the app. It's got my name. It's got my gamer tag. So you might remember when I created the sign up and sign in user flow, I not only collected attributes about the user, both built-in and custom attributes, but also issued those attributes as claims in the token that's being issued to this app. That app obviously validate that token, presenting those claims to the user. So got their gamer tag, their name, their email address, and their gamer zone. And if I had all my other policies created as well, I'll be able to enable them to redirect to edit their profile and all those kinds of things. Just to quickly show you all the claims that were issued is kind of shown here, right? So this is just basically listing all the claims in the ID token that was issued. Emails. I was a new user signing up for the first time, so I get that. So my application could read this claim and maybe take me through an onboarding flow to collect more information about me or whatever the case may be. It's often useful to use this new user claim, and both my name and some of the extensions or custom attributes that I used on the sign up form. We've collected those as well. You can also see here this TFP or Trust Framework Policy claim is set to the flow that was completed by that user, if we ever need to use that. So that's good. I'm signed up now, and then because I've signed up on my home, I've signed up and specified my gamer zone is family. It's just kind of personalised the homepage experience a little bit for me to show those family-friendly games that I can choose from.
Jay, the developer, is asking, is there any planned support for custom domains with B2C?
Yes, that's a work in progress. That's obviously important because today most of the Microsoft branding has been removed from the email messages, and you can more or less remove. There's no Microsoft branding on the B2C authorization endpoints. So you can kind of, but it's not your own domain. It's not like auth.wingtiptoys.com or whatever. But custom domains are is a feature in development.
Yeah, work in progress. There should be more coming.
Yeah, and if you have a tenant, talk to your account people, your account manager, if you've got a Microsoft account manager, and if not, you can email us. And there's going to be sort of some waitlisting and things we can do in the future to get them. So they were available before, and now things are kind of being changed a bunch to support what's coming next. And so because of that, we're not doing any right now, but we will be again soon. So.
Cool. So I'm pretty happy with that. At least I've got customers signing up now and signing in, and they can start buying stuff. The next thing I want to show is I don't trust users who sign up or sign in from Australia for whatever reason. So I'm now going to enforce. I don't trust myself basically. I'm going to enforce MFA on users signing in from a name location being Australia in this particular case. So this is an example of a conditional access policy that I'll create and enforce on my sign up and sign in flow. Okay, so I'm just going to return to my B2C portal. I'm happy with my sign up and sign in flow so far. And you might remember that MFA, if I just quickly list again, is conditional, right? But no conditions are being enforced just yet.
Yep.
So to do that, I'm going to go down to conditional access. And before I create my policy, I just want to create a named location, which will be Australia, so that I can enforce an MFA policy on anyone signing up or signing in from Australia. Cool. That was pretty easy. I now go back to my policies blade and create a new policy. So this is where I get to specify the who the policy is assigned to, so which users and which applications they may be signing up or signing into, as well as the conditions of that sign up or sign in, the location they're signing in from, for example. So to begin with, I'm going to say anyone that's so do MFA for Australia. This is my policy, and it's going to apply to all users. I might just exclude any global administrators just to lock myself out inadvertently. Okay, so but this is basically going to be assigned to or apply to all users who are going to sign up and sign in. Yep. I want to more specifically apply this MFA policy, to those users signing into the Wingtip Games app. Okay, so if you have a range of online services or apps and sites that customers will be signing up and signing in, your conditional access policy can be conditionally applied to one or more of those applications. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so it applies to Wingtip Games, and the condition I want to check for at runtime is there's quite a few options here. The risk of the sign-in, or the user rather, the risk of the sign-in, high, medium, low. Maybe the device they're using to sign up or sign in. So maybe it's on a mobile device or a desktop device. But I'm going to apply my conditional access policy to anyone signing into Wingtip Games from Australia. We'll just wait for that list to load. Okay, so I've applied that to Australia. And if all those conditions apply, I'm a user signing to Wingtip Games from Australia, I'm going to not block access, I'm going to grant it, but require multi-factor authentication.
Right. So now is this on a per user flow level or per app level?
Per app level.
Okay.
So it applies across all flows that support conditional access, right. But obviously for selected apps, and maybe for selected users.
So then, is there any sort of availability of like a step up MFA? Like I'm about to transfer, more than $5,000 or something from my checking account, and so I want to force an MFA. And historically, we do that with like a different flow.
Yep.
Is that still
so
the way to do it?
You continue to do that. Yeah, continue to do that with a different flow.
Okay.
And one in which you might remember when I create the sign up to sign in flow for MFA, I would say it's always on or conditionally on.
Ah, right.
That would be a kind of a step up flow where MFA would always be on.
Okay.
Always enforced. For example.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn this policy on, enable it rather than just report on it. Dang, I've just got to turn off security defaults before I apply this policy. So I'm just going to log in over here. So I'm still in the B2C tenant. I'm going to go down to properties. Oops, lost my cursor. Azure AD. So before I can apply a conditional access policy, I've got to disable the default security settings for this tenant. Say other. The reason why, whoops, no, wait, because I'm using MFA, conditional access. I don't have to type something in. Okay, so hopefully that's, I'm going to have to do this again, sorry about that. New policy. Yeah. Applies to all users except for global administrators. So you wouldn't expect global administrators to be logging into wingtip games necessarily, but we just want to make sure we don't lock them out inadvertently. So anyone signing into wingtip games from Australia grant access but required 2FA, turn that on. Oh, sorry, I've got to select that. Turn that on. Cool, that's better. Okay, so that's created, but may just take a few minutes to apply. I'm going to be a bit preemptive and try it. Let's just see. So I've still got my app running over here. So let's just make sure I've got a new session running, so I don't experience any single sign-on. Okay, so my app's running. We'll sign in as the user account I signed up with earlier. Let's just see if the CO policy will apply.
Just thinking about it.
Oh, look at that.
There you go.
Didn't have to wait a few minutes, even better. So if anyone wants to call me, just take my phone number I'm going to right now. Okay, so I've entered my phone number. I'm just waiting for the text message to arrive. Use verification code 057560 for Wingtip Games authentication, as I've entered that. And we're good. We're back in. I'm happy.
Ah, very nice.
Very nice.
Yep. And if you were to say VPN to the US or a different country, then that policy wouldn't apply because you're not
I trust them.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. That's super cool. I have yet to mess around much with B2C and conditional access, so that's super cool. I'm glad you did that.
Cool. Thank you. The next thing I want to show, which is another preview feature, is API connectors. So when I signed up, I entered a gamer tag. Let's imagine that gamer tag exists in a backend database somewhere. That I want to check that gamer tag is unique according to that backend database. So to enable this, I can add or register an API connector and link that connector into my sign up form. So that when that sign up form is submitted, sign up fields or the values will be submitted to my backend API that can validate that using whatever means is necessary and return a response code to say this sign up is okay or is not okay for a particular reason. Okay, so if it's not okay, it'll block the sign up. So ask the user to enter a different gamer tag, whatever the case may be. So to show that, I've got to build this backend API first, and I've kind of created a few resources to help me get started with that back in my Azure resource group. I've got this function app that's ready to go. Actually, it doesn't have a function just yet. I've got the function app. So I'm going to create a function app that I'm going to then connect into my sign up flow. I'm just going to develop this in the portal as a HTTP trigger. And I'm going to give it a memorable name, sign up validation trigger. And I'm going to protect it, with a function key. So just wait for that to create. Now I've got the code ready to go. There's quite a few lines of code, and I'll quickly walk through it. Okay, so I'll just go to the code tab here.
And this is your ability to essentially run really anything you want as part of and right now this is just sign up, correct?
This is just sign up. There's a sign in one as well.
Yep.
And they're run at specific points within that sign up and sign in that flow. So the point at which they're invoked is kind of fixed. What you validate or whatever and return is obviously up to the code itself, the API code itself.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so what this is going to do is when it's invoked, is the B2C flow will send obviously a request payload containing information about the user that's signing up or signing in. And I can protect access to this function not only with a function key, but also using a basic auth header. So the first few lines of code in here are going to check the authorization header, just determine that the username and password is a known credential. Otherwise, it returns an unauthorized result. Yep, so pretty standard kind of fare.
Cool.
And then I get into the validation logic itself. So I'm going to read the body that's being passed from the B2C flow. I'll show an example of what that is in a moment. If no body has been passed, then I'm going to return an OK result with an action that B2C will understand to be show a block page. So it's kind of like this as a 400-like error, where we just don't want the user to proceed for whatever. Because the actual payload is invalid itself. Yeah. But further down here, I can get access to the request data. It's going to contain some references to the gamer tag in this particular case that I want to validate and make sure that the gamer tag that's been used to sign up basically does not equal McVinney or whatever existing gamer tag may exist. Yep. So if I get a reference to the gamer tag in the request payload, and it's null or empty, then that's kind of an invalid condition. So I'm going to show the block page for that. If the gamer tag is McVinney, I'm going to return a 400 response with an action validation error and basically an error message that's presented to the end user on the sign up page. Yeah. If it's not null or empty and not McVinney, then I'm going to return an OK. And that OK response will just continue the sign up flow. Yep.
Cool.
Now, the little quirk here is that these the custom attributes that I created earlier for gamer tag and gamer zone are known as extension properties. They're registered as extension properties in the B2C directory. And those extension properties have a GUID in the middle of the name. Okay, so I just got to go and find that GUID. So I'm going to pop back over to my B2C tenant.
And while you're looking that up, we've had a quick question, which is, can we send data back from this API to, say, fill in a custom attribute?
Yep. Correct. You can return response properties or attributes that kind of enrich the user object that is about to be created as a result of the sign.
Ah, cool. Okay.
So you can not only do validation, but kind of enrichment as
cool.
well. You could fire something off, emails off, or something like that. Whatever you want to do, your heart's content. So to get this GUID, I've browsed to both B2C portal, gone to app registrations. I've gone under all applications. Every B2C tenant is created with this B2C extensions app, and this is the application registration against which all the custom attributes are registered in the B2C directory. Do not ever, ever, ever delete or modify this application registration. If you do, you'll be creating your B2C tenant again. Now, what I need to do is get this application or client ID and just cut back over to my function code and paste it in. Just paste it in here. Now, the only thing is, what I always remember to do, is remove the hyphens from it as well. Okay.
Oh, that's a good catch there. I'm pretty sure that many people have been caught by that before.
Yep. Always remember to remove those hyphens, and I think I've just got another reference to it down here as well. When I think about that. So I've just got some classes down here that help me return the response payload, basically, and write that out and read in the request payload. So hopefully that logic seems pretty straightforward. The other nice request parameter that's passed through it is the UI locale, the language that the B2C user is being the B2C page is being presented to the user in. So if you want to localize these error messages, then you can get a reference to the language the user is using and then return that localized error message. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to open a test window, and I'm going to test this by, actually I need to do one other thing first. I need to go into my function app. So I'm in the wrong directory. Let me just open this up. Open a new tab with my resource group. Because my function app is going to validate the authorization header, and I read the expected username and password from 2 app settings. Let's make sure I get them registered. Just need to get the names of those 2 headers. So 2 configuration settings. So I just want to add an app setting for the username, which I'll call foo, and the password, which I'll call bar. Save those. So my function app can read those 2 app settings and check what the incoming header is from the B2C flow at runtime. Let's wait for that to save. Okay, so when I want to test my function over here before I integrate it into my sign up flow, I'm just going to add my authorization header. Spelled with a Z rather than an S. And I know that foobar base64 encoded is that. And to test this function, here's an example of the request body that's sent from the B2C flow. Okay. Got the email I'm signing up with, the display name I've entered, and the gamer tag and gamer zone that I've entered and selected, as well as the language I'm using. I just need to make sure that this matches this. That's what I'm expecting from the B2C flow. And if I run this, so this is valid because I'm signing up using a gamer tag that is not McVinney, and my function returns a 200 response, basically to say continue with the sign up flow. If I were to go back into here to the test panel again, say McVinney,
Right.
Yeah, which is an invalid sign up, it returns validation error, so it doesn't continue with the sign up flow, and the sign up page will present this error message to the end user.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Let's see if we can make this work. So I'm back in my B2C tenant. I don't care about this extension app anymore. I'm going to firstly register that backend API, that function, with the B2C tenant. Okay, so I'm going to give this API connector a name, like sign up validation. I'm just going to get the function URL from, oops, over here. Sorry about that. Get function URL, and I'll get it with the default host key.
Yep.
Extra bit of security, I guess.
Quick, everybody load test that URL while we're here.
Yeah. Not quite production ready today, but yeah. Okay, and when B2C connects to this API, it's going to connect as foobar. So maybe take note of that if you want.
Is that
That's
like
slightly weaker. Yeah, that's slightly weaker from the password I used in my sign up.
Slightly
weaker though. Slightly weaker. Yeah. So that's registered the backend API with the B2C tenant. Now I want to actually call that API from my sign up flow. So I'm going to go into my sign up and sign in flow. And I've got this option here to connect that API.
Right.
And invoke it, sign up validation, invoke it before the user is created in the sign up page.
Right.
Yeah. So you can see here the other place I can invoke something like this is after the user signed in from the identity provider. This is maybe a good example of this is maybe checking that the signed in user currently has an active customer account or subscription or something in the CRM system, and if not, kind of block that sign in at that point.
Right.
Yep.
So you can still return a 401 even though they try to successfully sign in because they don't meet some other criteria?
Yeah, so the sign-in would be successful, so to speak, but the sign-in flow won't be complete because that criteria hasn't been met. They're not a current subscriber or whatever the case may be, yeah? Cool. So I'm going to have to use the same email address to sign up again. So before I run this, I'm just going to delete the user account that I signed up with earlier, which is this one here. So I can use the same email address again. My app should still be running. So let's open a new window, go to my app again, click sign in. Okay, I don't have an account anymore, so I'm going to sign up. Send myself a verification code. That to arrive. I'm going to sign up with McVinney. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I don't know who McVinney is, but he's pretty popular.
Maybe it's a clan.
Yeah. Just got to wait for that. I've got the verification code now again. Copy and paste that. Verify it. All right, fingers crossed. Click create. Oh, how quick was that?
Nice.
So it's invoked the backend API. It's obviously validated that and returned me the error message that we were expecting.
Very cool.
Very nice.
So,
Yeah.
So one of the things that we hear a lot, especially when we're talking about API connectors or like REST APIs and custom policy, what are what are some of the things to look out for? I guess like in terms of your sign-in flows or your sign-up flows. Like, are there any downsides to using API connectors like that?
No, I think the main thing is just to so I guess the way B2C actually is deployed or distributed around the world is that while the B2C directory that I've created for this tenant may be in the United States, as a user who's located in Australia, I'm actually interacting with a B2C front end, the authorization endpoint, if you will, in an Australian data center. Okay, so I guess the key thing is knowing where your users are so that the B2C front end is communicating with APIs as close to those users as possible, primarily just for performance and minimizing latency between those kind of things. So, but yeah, certainly ensuring that all the right protections are in place in terms of these APIs have to be public for B2C to publicly accessible on the internet for B2C to communicate with them. There's currently no way to, for example, maybe the API could be inside a VNet, but you would have to have an application gateway or something similar in front of it to get published to the internet so that B2C can call into it. And so maybe you brute force attacks and those kind of things. If there's anything sensitive about the data that's being passed to that API or the response from it, just ensuring you got all those standard protections in place.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess stuff like only do what you need to, right? Like only things that are critical path. I mean, you can queue work to be done elsewhere, but I mean, it's really just, it's things that absolutely should be like a go, no go on storing this account, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
Yep. So I'm going to create this user with a gamer tag that is valid. And here we go again. Still doesn't trust me.
You would think it would, since at least it knows you're in Australia. You would think it would.
At least it knows I'm in Australia. So this is actually, I guess, last time we enforced MFAs after I'd already signed up and was signing in again.
Yeah.
Obviously, that same policy was being applied on sign up this time.
Well, that's at least helpful, because one of the things that Bolt, who's one of our viewers, one of the things he mentioned earlier was, the fact that if you've already got it in if you've already got an existing one, you're getting asked for your phone number after the account already exists, and if somebody's already compromised the account, well, now they've really compromised it because now their phone number is in there for MFA. And doing it at sign up, of course, would be much, much better. And I guess if the policies are enforced when a user signs up for the first time, that's the best way to do it right then, and then deal with the other ones as they come along. Yep.
Yeah, so as we showed, there's quite a lot of conditions you can kind of add and remove based on your policy. So it's they're quite flexible in that regard. We've only got kind of a few minutes left. I guess the other thing I just want to show off is how you can localize these user flows to different languages. I speak English and .NET, and that's about it, or C#, I should say. I'm not very fluent in anything else, but I'll give it a crack. So what I want to do is, firstly, localize one of the strings on the sign-in page, because I'm not. If I just quickly show that again, so I'll just open that sign-in page up again. Show what we're going to do. Sign in, new session. I don't really like this sign in with your email address string, for example, so I want to change that one first, and then also add French as a supported language as well. So if the user's browser is set to French, then they should get the French experience.
Right.
So yeah.
All right, cool.
There's a question on the chat. Someone's asking, can we integrate the Have I Been Pawned
For sure.
API with our system so we can check for passwords?
Yep. That's a really good example of using that sign up API is checking for those compromised email addresses or passwords or whatever. Yeah, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, in fact, I think
so. For sign up and sign,
I think we may even have a sample that uses that, or I think I've seen that done before. So I'm pretty sure that's around. So yeah.
Yep. And that can be done with both built-in and flows and custom policies, of course. So for sign up and sign in, I need to enable language customization to get started with localizing this.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
not going to get very far.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as the UI stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think there's a
Sounds
bug.
like we might have a portal bug we need to go and get into.
Yeah, or I've clicked too many buttons in the wrong order and it's into a funny state, perhaps. I don't think that's going to work, is it? No matter how many more buttons I'm going to click. But the idea here is that enabling language customization allows you to then begin to add any of these supported languages here. So I would have English is kind of by default enabled, and then I can enable French, for example. Then for each of those enabled languages, I can download not an XML file, but a JSON file that allows me to, it's kind of going up in the world, allows me to customize every one of these strings on this page. From these headings to these labels for the fields to the labels for the buttons and so on and so forth.
Cool.
And being a JSON file, that's something you obviously manage in source control or send off to a language translator and they send it back.
Yeah.
That's the way it would work if I was able to make it work today.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious what's going on with your. I'm curious what's going on with your tenant too. That's kind of weird. Yeah. Is it because it's not your conditional access policy causing something to blow up? Is it?
Maybe. Let's really quickly create another sign up and sign in flow. Just to see if it was related to that flow or not. If it isn't, then I just have to pretend it would have worked. No, it works.
Yeah, we can blame it on the stream, obviously. The stream gods have not been kind to us.
I figured the stream gods would be asleep by now. Now the problem is that he's working in a data center in the U.S. and he's 15 hours ahead of us, and so the data center just hasn't caught up to him yet.
Date contact.
Yeah, I mean dates are hard, right? So.
Yeah. And time zones are fake news. We told them. We said that, right?
Oh, that works.
Here we
cool.
go. So, yeah, this works. How about that? So, choosing English, I can, if I want to change a string on my sign up or sign in page, I can download all the default strings. Here we go.
So everything you do in B2C is in XML, except for languages, in which case it's no longer XML.
Except for languages.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. It's quite a large file, so 300 odd lines. What I want to do, I just got to quickly check which one I want to change. I wrote this down the other day. Okay. The thing I want to change, and these are all documented in the Azure AD documentation as well, is local intro generic, which is a generic string ID. So I'm going to change it from, which by default will be displayed as sign in with your email address, because that's the way that users sign up and sign in. I'm going to say with your Wingtip account. Sign in with your Wingtip account. I like that.
There you go.
Yep. I go back to the portal and upload that file that I downloaded and changed. So I just got to go into my downloads, JSON. Oh, sorry. One thing I do have to make sure is that I'm overriding the default string.
Oh.
I always forget that one as well. So not only have to change the value, but I've got to make sure that it knows that I've changed the value.
Surprising you remembered before you even upload the file. It seems that you've done it quite a few times.
Yeah.
So you know the flow.
So that's good. That's better. So if hopefully that applies pretty much straight away. So if I go back to my app, open up a new session, sign in. Sometimes this takes a few minutes, these localized strings to apply. So it hasn't quite applied yet, so we'll come back to that in a moment. In the meantime, I'm going to enable French just by clicking enabled yes, saving that.
What is it? Is this a different flow from the one we're using in our app right now?
Yeah, this is a flow that obviously I haven't clicked too many buttons on, so I haven't broken it yet. Yeah. This is my SUSE sign in version 2. So again, I can download the default French strings. Just show that in the folder.
Also, they have prefabricated language files, right? So you
Correct.
can change them. Oh.
That's right. So I'll go and look for the same string ID. This one's in what appears to be French, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's French for wingtip?
Good question. Let's.
But you would not internationalize names.
I'm being facetious, but it's point de l'aile. It's significantly more verbose. It's essentially the point of the wing.
I don't know what account. I don't know what account is in.
Yeah. Here out.
Yeah, I don't know what account is in.
Account is a compte, COMPTE.
How about that? All right, so let's try that one and upload that file and see if it works. It's my French one.
Does it do any validation on the? So as long as your XML is valid, then it will upload, right? If you screwed up the wording, then it's all on you.
Yep, my QA tester would pick that up at some point in the future.
Sure. And now is that driven? And that's driven by my browser locale or?
By your browser. Yep, correct. Or the app can pass in a locale, for example. So I can go to French here. Sorry, I've got the wrong URL. That's why it's not displayed. SUSE. So yeah, either the browser locale, or if the app knows the user has a preference, for example, or has chosen a preference, then we can show it in. The app can send it through in the authorization request.
Nice.
Okay, so you can see here it's not only in French, but it's got my customized string in there as well.
Cool, and it's got. I guess we were correct on the word on COMPTE because you didn't change the bottom one for social account, right?
No, that's right. There you go. Did you check Bing Translator?
I took French in high school, but I don't really remember any of it. So,
like given this sign up and sign in flow, I haven't broken this one just yet. Let's quickly just go back and see if I can grab my custom page branding.
Well, and then because your custom page layouts that we've got here, Yeah, all of the content is injected into your page layout. So the localizations, all of those would still apply
Still
in
applies.
your custom layout. Oh, that's
Correct.
super cool. Yeah. So you do this one time, and regardless of what your layout is,
Yep.
the customizations
However,
come through.
having said that, yeah, and that's only applied. Those customization, those localized strings are only applied inside that API div.
Right, right.
So if I've got content outside of that, then what I can also do, I think I can add this kind of placeholder. I can't remember the exact. I think it's something like this from memory. So that when it goes and loads this HTML page from my storage account or somewhere else, I can maybe part of the path to that HTML page can include the language that user is using. So I can load different pages if I wanted to.
Yeah, I saw that just the other day. I think it's either it might be culture info. I don't remember, but there are different tags you can use in there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so let's just see if this works, because that would just make my day if it does. Okay, so this is my SUSE version 2. Let's go back over here, refresh this page, please. Oh, look at that. After all. So I got my background, got my images, got it kind of centered in a slightly different way. It's all localized in French. Obviously, it would also work in English. I'll just remove that param, and we're good to go.
Nice.
Go live.
Cool. Super cool.
Nice, customizable, pretty.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
And the amount of code that you had to write is very, very little. Just like 5 lines of code, and it's all integrated. So once you have the configuration up and running, it becomes a lot more straightforward for developers to integrate with their app. And that's the important bit that we need to highlight. We spend more time in the portal, you're showing us all the bits and bobs and the advanced features, rather than writing code.
Yep. That's it.
That's awesome. I loved it.
Is awesome.
That was great. And the wingtip toys, the code for that's all out on GitHub, right?
Yeah, that's actually some of this app code I was for the wingtip demos app that I helped with a couple of years ago now. So where to get started with Azure AD B2C is obviously the documentation here and the how-to guides. So a lot of what I walk through today, you can read about under this user flow how-to guides, how to create those user flows, add your CA policies, customize the UX, and even add JavaScript to your custom pages. In terms of Microsoft.Identity.Web and adding those few lines of code and configuration, great place to get started with that is this GitHub repo and wiki here for Microsoft.Identity.Web. There's some really good samples connected to that repo.
Yep.
If you just want to sign your B2C users in, then you can use this example here, B2C. If you want your app to then call your APIs as those B2C users, there's another code example for that here. If you're into custom policies or want to get into them, there's a lot to read about in the B2C documentation, but there's a lot of samples to refer to as well. Mm-hmm. Quite a long list of those, and they're kind of pretty well documented here. And if you really wanted to check out some of my earlier code, Azure AD B2C Advanced Policies. It's kind of an old demo, but one that still kind of works. Can be most of the time can be found here, including all that source code and the custom HTML templates that I use as well.
Very cool. Yeah, well, I think Chris is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to B2C. So don't let the zero to hero from today sort of fool you. Like if you've if you've got more super advanced things that you need to do, or things that you can't just get your identity system to do, call us, call Chris. And
yep, you got my phone number now.
That's right. You've got his phone number. If you're in the U.S., it's probably $4.50 a minute to call him.
Oh, yeah.
So you better get your script written before you call. But no, we really appreciate you coming. This was awesome. I loved it. I learned a bunch today too, because I for as much as I get stuck doing B2C stuff, I really don't do a whole lot of UI customization and like the localization. So this was really, really cool. I'm glad that you could come hang out with us for a couple hours.
Cool. hopefully there's a bit in there for everyone. And yeah, certainly connect with me on LinkedIn. You should find me under Chris Padgett, Melbourne, Australia, and start the conversation there.
The general consensus is that you need to be Chris B1C Padgett because there is no second. No second to you.
Very flattering.
So that was awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Absolutely would love to have you back sometime in the future. Maybe we can do some laps around custom policies and some of the deeper, more custom stuff.
Yep.
This coming Friday, so in 2 days, in like 30 some hours, we're going to have Mr. Corey Weathers, CL Dubois, will be here.
CL Dubois.
He will be here to do some. We're going to do some Twilio with some text messages on our Thrasman project. That will be on at 8 a.m. Pacific on Friday. Be sure to join the Discord.
Yeah.
Also, send us your stories at aka.ms/425/share. Tell us what you're working on. Tell us how we can help. Tell us how we have made your lives better or significantly worse. Send us your stories. Let us know what you're working on, and let us know how how we can help. That's why we're here, is to make developers' lives easier. So be sure to let us know. We will be back on Friday. Ping us on at iddevsoc@service.microsoft.com, or you can try 45show@microsoft.com to talk to us directly. And we'll see everybody on Friday. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good day.
Everyone.
Bye.